Hello, Virginia and all 50 states. This is Book of Katherine, and I'm very happy to talk to you today about gun control and gun rights and the bills that are coming your way. I bet you guys think that because you had a big anti-gun rally that you guys are in the clear and that everyone is listening to you on the 50-state level, that they know that you don't want gun control. And you're thinking that this big legislation that you just heard, this big gun control bill, you probably think that it's been knocked down. But there's something that you don't know. You don't know that that entire bill and that entire rally and that entire airtime was all about another bill. It had to do with another bill. They were taking this bill over here that seems so bad and so extreme. They put up this bill in front of you to make you so scared so that you didn't notice the bill over here. The bill over here coming through all 50 states, and they used Virginia because Virginia is the most pro-gun state in the country, and they knew Virginia would freak out the most over it. They wanted to have an actual anti-gun rally. They knew it would happen. They knew people would talk about it to get you the most scared, so that this little bill over here that was not nearly as bad, that only had some gun control, would go ahead and come through, and no one would really think that much about it because it seemed like absolutely nothing in comparison to this big, huge, scary gun control bill right here. And that's exactly how they do it. That's exactly how the left does it. They use fear and totalitarianism and scare tactics on the masses to get through and take away your freedoms a little bit, one by one. Do you know how they've already done it to you? They use Donald Trump. They scare you with Donald Trump. They go after Donald Trump, and they get by sanctuary state legislation on you. They've done it already in New Mexico. If you go ahead and look at New Mexico, you will think that New Mexico doesn't have a sanctuary state policy. You can go ahead and see the policy bills. If you look it up, they have a registry, and it says that there are 2 sanctuary state bills that have not passed in New Mexico, and that's because they have 3 representatives in New Mexico: the United Nations and the UK, the royal families of Europe, who are still the totalitarians of the world. Their empire never fell. Queen Victoria, King George III, all of their Queen Elizabeth, who started the East India Trading Company, they and their trading routes that went through South America, India, Australia, China, all across British Columbia, all across Mexico, Spain, they still have monarchies. UK is still a constitutional monarchy. When Parliament begins, Queen comes down and actually gives her orders for Parliament for that year and says what the government's job is and the things they are to carry out for that year. You'll notice in 2019, she was pretty ticked off with them. And she had to give them new rules that says, okay, go ahead and pass Brexit. Go ahead and pass Brexit for us, but you're going to pay us a lot of money. And they have ever since Parliament's been passing a ton of tax laws, including a $369 million bill that gives the monarchy cash. Just buckets and buckets of cash to make up for what they're losing on the EU bill, on the EU deal. And they just, for example, £500,000 for every time they ring Big Ben. Every time Big Ben rings, they get £500,000 to the monarchy. Ding, goes right on in. Who else is a constitutional monarchy? Spain is still a constitutional monarchy. So is Brussels. So is Sweden. 50% goes to Sweden. On top of that, another 22%. So Swedes pay up to 72% of their income in taxes. That's why you don't see a lot of Sweden. You don't see a whole lot of Sweden. PewDiePie shows you his bedroom. And then when he finally left is when you started seeing outside his bedroom. There's a reason for that. So what they do is they take away our freedoms. They've been gunning for our freedoms ever since. And boy, you can look at how they have managed their parliaments to learn how they manage our Congress. And what did they do? When they take away our freedom over in New Mexico, they had 3 people that passed the bills that they hand down through the United Nations. The United Nations hands down 3 sanctuary city bills because the United Nations passed, remember, they passed the UN migration bill that said open borders. UN migration says open borders worldwide. So that means no borders anywhere. And included in that is sanctuary state bills. And so we have congressmen and congresswomen across all 50 states that they have supported and put in, and there's 3 of them right now in New Mexico, and they put in 3 bills in New Mexico. And 2 of them got struck down, but the news made so much hype about 2 of them that 1 got through. And that's all that you needed, was 3 sanctuary state bills and 1 got through. So you're hearing a ton about this, and that's all New Mexico needed, isn't it? That's all New Mexico needed in order to have drug trafficking go right on through, rebuild the wall, and right on up to Colorado, where they have all these legalization things. Because remember, where Colorado is in the entire UN global plan, it's supposed to be the headquarters. It's supposed to be the new capital city. That's what Colorado is the new capital city. That's why you see it building up so much. That's why they call it the Green Ring. This whole Hunger Games idea of trains connecting everything. That's why your states keep approving trains when you don't actually have the funds and you don't want these commuter trains, and you say it's only built for the upper class. That's exactly why, because this UN migration and this UN plans, that's something the upper crust and the royals are building, and they're marking off your land and saying you cannot use your land anymore. That's why the environmentalists only care about things you can't see, pollution you can't see, like things in the air you can't see. You'll notice environmentalists never point out the things you can't see, like the oil slicks in Venezuela, the oil slicks in China, the oil slicks in India, or the green like chemical blooms that are happening. Why is that? Because all the green chemical blooms are happening at UNESCO approved sites, UN approved sites throughout China for the big global companies. They don't want to track, because if you start looking at where you can actually see the pollution, you can attach that to companies, and all the companies end up being like BMW and BASF, who are funding these politicians in all 50 states. So my message to you, if you go and look Virginia, go ahead and look outside the UN, and you will see outside the UN, they have a nice big statue of a gun. And that gun has its nose twisted up in a frickin' knot. And if you look at their global goal, number 16.1, it's to end violence everywhere through a global armistice. Now, you will notice something. You will notice, Virginia, that the UN, starting within 10 years of its being formed, they got their own peace army. Their own peace army out of Germany. They got their own weapons. So the United Nations has its own army. They have artillery all over the world. They have blue hats. They do movies where they've got blue hats. They do propaganda for their army. They've got weapons, but they say we shouldn't have weapons. And we know, Virginia, from your Thomas Jefferson, we know that he who has guns has the power, which is why in America we gave the people guns, because the people have the power. My advice to you, all 50 states, is you look for these little bills. I would be recommending, if I were you, to peel back. Go to your legislatures and say, you know what? Your way of apologizing to me is to take the gun restrictions you have on file now and peel them back. I suggest you start going to your lawyers, Virginia, and do this. Start making your own bills, start waiting for the UN to introduce bills to you, and start creating your own bills and start introducing those to the 50 states that repeals back gun laws and gun restrictions. Because let me tell you, the NRA is being funded by the lovely UN. That's why the NRA was so shocked when President Trump went up there and just said, you know what, I'm going to sign this that releases us from the United Nations, this armistice bill. I'm going to release this for United Nations. That's why he had to do it without telling them, without their permission. They didn't even know about it. Why do you think that is, Virginia? Why do you think the president had to do that without giving them any kind of informed consent? Why do you think he had to release them from the United Nations? How much money do you think the United Nations has when the imperialism of the world is behind them? The people who own the mines of the world, every diamond mine in every world, every jade mine in the world, the people of America are alone. We, the people, are standing alone. We, the people, are fighting the imperials of the world. We, the people need our gun rights, and we, the people, must stand together, create our own bills, and ask for our gun rights to be restored. Kanye West said it right when he said it is legal guns, not illegal guns. Illegal guns are the problem, not legal guns. Illegal guns are the problem, not legal guns. And we should be out there with signs that say Actually, I wouldn't say go out there with signs. I wouldn't put my face out there at all because they say privacy. They will use your face. That is why every single environmentalist group has little things that give you a little face mask. Even in Hong Kong, they wear little face masks. I wouldn't do that at all. I would fight with your lawyers, Virginia. All 50 states, I would go ahead and make sure you draft bills. Even people who don't, students, that's what you can do in your civics classes, is draw up bills that restore it. Our right to bear arms shall not be infringed upon. That's what the Constitution says. That way, the state is not bigger than the people. They cannot overpower us. We, the people, must have the power. That's the point, is that we, the people, must rule. We never can have a monarch. That's the point, is that we cannot have a monarchy. And there is a huge system behind the monarchy outside that wants to take away our rights. This bill is nothing but a shiny object to go squirrel. You look over there while they pass this other bill over here that will take away your freedoms. And they do it all the time. They do it with abortion bills, just like they did the same thing to liberals. They did the same thing to those liberals. They did to a ton of I have friends who are liberals, and they were shocked. And I warned them. They did it. They put up pink lights. The governor of New York put up all these pink lights, and said, oh, isn't it so great that we gave you all these abortion rights? Put up pink lights in New York, and all in New York, oh, so happy. And guess what that abortion bill did? It actually said that you don't have to have a medical license to practice abortions. So now Massachusetts, you don't need a medical license to practice abortions. That means you can now have a back alley abortion with a hanger, with a coat hanger. Planned Parenthood did the actual in-house things. That means nurses can now do abortions. You don't have to have a clean instrument to do abortions. That's in Colorado that got passed, California that got passed. So now death rates of those who actually get an abortion are skyrocketing. And who would ever want that? You think that's an American movement that's pushing that, or someone who hates America and her freedoms, who chants death to America? There is a war out on us, and they hate both sides. We, the people, must stand together. We cannot be looking at the left and we cannot be looking at the right. We must stand together. Sit at the table and talk to one another. Stand together and stop hating one another and start looking at who hates us outside, because it's foreign money that's doing this to us, and foreign money that's funding this, and it's foreign money who's taking away our freedoms and funding these Congress people in all 50 states and taking away our freedoms on a state level. Start looking at the other gun bills that they are putting out there and start putting out your own gun bills. Start putting out your own gun bills that have the rights that you are looking for. Stop waiting for them to introduce bills and start introducing your own. Peace out for Thomas Jefferson and all the freedoms he gave us. May his inheritance carry on. Let freedom ring.